Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to A Time for Truth. It's a pleasure to have you back again with us. And we have a very important show regarding our country, regarding religious institutions and laws and the people of this country and the future. We don't often look at the future consequences of what we do today, which is very important in terms of longevity. So today we're going to look at something that's facing all religious institutions, churches, synagogues, temples, mosques, as their traditional long-term moral values on sexuality and sex and gender may be actually encroached upon by something right now in Washington, D.C. called the Equality Bill, which is endangering the normal practice of religious institutions. And today, I'm very honored to have with us Rabbi Yacob Cohen, who is the founder and director of the Institute of Noahide, Universal Peace. Noahide basically are the laws of Noah and Adam before actually the Ten Commandments of Moses. So they're very ancient laws. And he's head of this organization for Universal Peace for all people with Universal Noahide. The rabbi was born in Brooklyn, New York, and received his bachelor's degree at the Rabbinical College of America and was ordained Dayan at the United Lubavitcher Yeshiva in New York. He graduated with a degree from Monmouth University in Australia and is a renowned Talmudic scholar and Dayan Jewish judge. He is a writer on various Jewish subjects. And most recently, the rabbi worked on a compilation of the works of Noahide practice. He was featured on the New York TV show, One People, One World Under God. He is author of the book titled Divine Image. And Rabbi Cohen has met with various world leaders, the President of the United States. He has experienced lecture, travels the world, China, Korea, Africa, all over the U.S. He serves on a delegation to the United Nations, NGO ECOSOC, and is very involved at the United Nations with his groups. And he relishes the questions of both the perplexed and not so perplexed, of all backgrounds, all creeds, all religions, and all ages. He is involved in breaking the silence at the United Nations. And it's my honor to welcome to the show, and engineer, if you can put him up on the screen, Rabbi Yacob Cohen. Welcome to this episode of A Time for Truth. How are you, Rabbi?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Very well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here, to be with you, to see you again. It's very, very important that we're here, and it's great to see you. Thank you.
It's our honor. I think the first thing, Rabbi, is how did you decide to take up the calling of being a rabbi, a religious leader?
Well, I'm not just a religious. I'm a religious leader in the United Nations, which has a global impact. I like to joke that I have the most congregants in the world because that could infect the entire world. But what made me decide to become a rabbi was the fact that there's a higher calling within me, which desires to bring justice, equality to all people, and that's really what it's about. The Universal Noahide Code is about bringing peace and justice to all people of all faiths, all people, regardless of affiliation, political or religious background. It's about bringing everyone together, uniting the world, as the United Nations is supposed to. Its motto is unite everyone.
Excellent. I was going to ask you if you could. I try to give it a little bit of explanation, but I know that I was a little confused. So it'd probably be a good idea to make sure that the viewers all understand. So what does Noahide mean? What does it stand for? I think it would be important for them to understand since you're director of this group. What is Noahide?
Okay, Noahide is basically a terminology coined in the Talmud, which basically means a ben Noah or a bas Noah, a child of Noah, essentially. It relates to all people, even the Jewish people, prior to any organized religion. So before there was any organized, before there was Judaism, Christianity, Muslim, Islam, etc., Noahide. Everyone was a child of Noah. And what this means is why we call the child of Noah, because Noah was the only person that saw the catastrophe, saw the decadence, the corruption that was going on in his time, and he chose the higher calling. He realized that there's a higher authority, and he chose to listen to that voice. The 120 years building an ark to save himself and his family. And this is what it's about. It's about realizing that we're all children of Noah. We all have a higher calling. We have a higher authority, which is God. God is the highest authority of all of us. He represents peace. Represents peace for humanity. And universal Noahide law, I'm just going to briefly go through them, what they are. The first six were given to Adam, and the seventh was given to Noah. What are they? The first one is to believe in God. Second one is to pray to God, not to curse God. And then the third one is not to kill, not to steal, not to commit adultery, and to establish courts of justice. And the final one is not to be cruel to animals. See, when Noah exited, before Noah's time, people didn't consume meat. Afterwards, God allowed people, humans, to consume meat. But he made a stipulation, a law, that we have to be kind and we have to feed our animals before we eat. We have to treat them with decency and be humane. And if we want to eat them, we can only consume them and kill them in a painless manner. And that's why you're not allowed to tear the limb off an animal, which is cruelty. And basically, it's about being humane, about realizing that everything is God's creature. Everyone, every animal, everything in the world, even the environment. We have to respect the environment. Realize that we don't have the right to abuse it. We have to use it, but not abuse it. So,
you know, it's so true what you're saying, and we have as a human race, regardless of our religious belief or upbringing, when you really look at it, we have very many commonalities. And today's show is going to be very important because these commonalities have worked and have allowed us to move forward to the higher planes that we have gotten to technologically, organizationally, with so many things that we have nowadays. And so one of the things that we're going to be looking at this show is what is going to happen if we start drastically cutting and changing long established norms, and really some being biologic norms that actually allow, not as a philosophical truth, but as a factual scientific truth, is the proliferation and the propagation of the human race through normal sexuality. Rabbi, I was going to ask you before we got into that is, because you're involved in the United Nations, I wanted you to describe a little bit about your affiliation with the United Nations and the activities that you do there, because I know you're involved in many different United Nations activities.
Well, I serve as a director on the Institute of Noahide Code, which is an NGO, non-governmental organization, sitting on the American Social Council within the United Nations. And my role as the leader of this organization, this NGO, is to promote the Universal Noahide Code, to promote unity, to promote peace, harmony, and besides conferences, which we invite different people of different faiths, people of different backgrounds, to participate and to find commonality, to find the thread that unites us, find the laws, and which these universal laws are a unity factor, whether you're Christian, Muslim, Buddhist. These are basic human laws, and the UN Declaration of Human Rights respect all these laws and all these. It's actually that interesting that Hugo Gratis and who's the founder of international law, based a lot of his work on this Universal Noahide Code, natural law, Mojave Code. These are all based going back to the times of Noah. So basically, it's a way for us to communicate. For instance, if we had in the world, wherever you go, red and green is go. If every country decided arbitrarily they wanted to change and make it differently, then we wouldn't be able to survive as humans. So too, respecting human life, respecting others' property, respecting the animals, and respecting everything, and it's really about living in harmony, and it's really about the basis of the law. So my activities include, again, holding conferences on the Universal Noahide Code, or Universal Laws of Noah, or 7 Laws of Noah, whatever you want to call it. And then my aim is to bring people together and to find, not to preach in the sense that, not to preach to anyone, that we're not looking to, one of the things about, even though it comes from the Torah, which is the Bible, we're not here to preach and to convert. Judaism makes it clear that the basis is to be a good non-Jew, to be a good person, and a good non-Jew, or a Gentile, has the same rights and the rewards as a Jew. It's just that a Jew has commandments to keep. So the idea is to spread these universal Noahide Code, to show really are about peace and about humanity, and how they're really about bringing everyone together. And this is really, we could solve today. We try to solve the world's problems politically, but a lot of them, the problems are based from religion. So if we take a step back and we say, it doesn't matter what religion you are, but the fact is that you all believe in the universal code of Noah. We believe that red is stop and green is go, then we could live together in a society in harmony and peace and unity, and respect the one who gives us life, which is God Almighty.
Absolutely. as you're going through that, one of the things that makes man, a higher level being, and not an animal, and his civilization is his spirituality. Like you were saying, from the laws of Noah, his humanity. To be humane. What is it to be humane? Is not to be animalistic. It's to be spiritual. Is to have some foresight and to take a look and to see how our actions then go forward into consequences which shape our future. And, Rabbi, what I was going to ask you, because, you're also, I saw a judge, and you have various backgrounds, is there's now in Washington, D.C., there's a law that actually passed the Congress, which is called the Equality Bill. And it's in the Senate right now. And, many religious leaders are very concerned about it because of its impact on religion. So, Rabbi, what I was going to ask you is if you could discuss a little bit for the viewers what you feel about this equality bill and what ramifications are on our community, regardless of your religious faith.
Well, I think the fundamental principle of America was founded was a separation of church and state, meaning that the state cannot dictate that you be Christian, you be Muslim. You have the right to choose the religion of your own, meaning you have the right to practice as long as the common laws that we all have to follow, that is stopping at red, going in green, etc., paying your parking tickets, etc. But the fundamental basis of this country was founded on the separation of church and state, freedom of religion, not freedom from religion. What's happening in today's society is that they're trying to, the government that is trying to mix into religion, meaning they're trying to define what marriage is. Marriage is not, marriage is not it's a godly act when a man and woman get married. It's not a government act. You could call it a civil union and offer, people of same sex the same rights, whether taxes, filing taxes, etc., whatever rights marriage couples should have, then man and wife, then they should allow others, but they shouldn't redefine what marriage is and redefine what's happening today in society is that they're pushing down an agenda of which doesn't allow freedom of religion. If you can, in other words, if somebody wants to have a male as a primary, even though according to the Torah Bible forbidden, but we're not mixing into it. It's his or her personal preference to do, but they can't shove their view down on belief and say that you can't be married to man and wife, which is what's happening in our society. We've come to the point whereby the government is trying to control, similar to communism. Communism threw away religion. Said there's no God, there's only Mother Russia, etc. What's happening now is in a different form, but it's happening way, saying, they're using policy, they're using the word human rights. But saying, no religious leader is saying that the religion has to dictate that you have to get married in a church or a mosque, and then what the criteria is. That's up to the synagogue to decide which place of worship they get married in, or if they get married at all in a place of worship, or a religious house of religion. But at the end of the day, they're all entitled to go down and file a marriage license and allow them to get certain rights, to have certain marriageable rights, which is state, whether taxes, tax, or whatever it is. The point is, today they're trying to redefine in a way which is counter, which in the end it will cause friction amongst. It will only cause friction because they're not allowing individuals to be free. You're not allowing religious people to be free, and you're not allowing others. It's really about the government not crossing the line of church and state. It's really about the government realizing that they have a responsibility, and everyone has the right, just like a right for a fair trial. It doesn't matter what religion you come, you all have to respect the laws. The law is the law. But what to do is redefine it, and that's dangerous because at the end of the day, that could bring to a civil unrest because the founders wanted, part of the problem in Europe that the government was controlled by religion, imposed certain rights and certain the laws were governed based on which religion, which side of the fence you stood.
Absolutely. You know, Rabbi, you bring up very good points. And if you look at it, as I grew up, and I'll just take it from my own personal experience as I grew up and as I matured, there were things at the beginning that I didn't like. But then as I went on in life, I realized I understood why those tenets were being followed, how they led to a better family or community life, and that it wasn't just about one person. I could take a look at it as my right to feel what I want. But, you brought up a good point, is that when we start to impinge on the rights of the majority or the rights of a nation, and also a successful nation, I think one of the things that we've got to take a look at that you were talking about is how successful the United States of America has been on its principles and on its freedoms, but also on the fact that each one was responsible to fight for those freedoms and to uphold those freedoms and to produce. So I think that you bring up some good points, and one of the questions I have for you is, what do you feel the impact is in general in religion if this bill were to pass, where you in the synagogue would have to change your bathroom, your female bathroom, to have someone there who's had an operation? And how does this impact also just the biblical laws? How would that impact in terms of Judaism, Rabbi?
It will obviously have a negative impact, and it will again encroach on our constitutional right to practice religion. That's what we encroach on. It would basically encroach on our constitutional right to practice a religion, whether it doesn't matter whether we're the minority, majority, we believe, people don't believe. This is the fundamental basis of America. America was founded on the fundamental principle that everyone is free. Everyone has the right for an honest, fair trial. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Everyone has the right to worship and own. But as long as, again, we don't infringe on other people. So whether it's Judaism, Christianity, Islam, doesn't have the right to demand that all places serve halal, or all places that keep kosher. There's what you want to do in your own private home. That's your business. But when they say that halal or kosher is outlawed, and you can't have it. You have to have everything, or you have to have bathrooms with multiculture and multi this and multi that. That's infringing on the house of worship, and that's a very, very dangerous path. Because once we cross that line between church and state, then basically the religion is over. The freedom that we have, the freedom which isn't free, which thousands and millions of people fought for, is over. And just by the stroke of a pen, it's very dangerous that the legislation should infringe on religion. It shouldn't, freedom of religion, as long as, again, you're a law-abiding citizen, upholding the laws. You should have the same right to drive a car, buy a house, whatever there shouldn't be any distinction. But the moment the government legislation decides that they want to infringe on religion, that becomes a very serious issue. And a very, very serious. This is like the crossing of that, which is very, very serious. And,
absolutely. We have to really take a look as a country at consequences. We have to take a look at future, and we have to look at changing drastically guidelines, moralities, integrity that have been placed for so many years and have led to having humanity and to civilization. It seems like in the last few years since COVID struck, it's almost like a COVID fever where, it's almost like another malady of the COVID, that all this change that's occurring and where structure that has been relied on for so many years is just being disintegrated. So at this point, unfortunately, Rabbi, we've come to the end of the show, but I want to thank you for being on the show with me.
Listen, I want to thank you for having me. And ultimately, the Judaism teaches that love is more powerful than hate. We've survived. The Torah has survived thousands of years through crusades, through persecutions, through annihilations, through Holocaust.
Absolutely. So I'm sorry, Rabbi, I have to cut you off only because we're at the end of the show. But that's a great point to end off on. So let's take a look at how we can understand each other, love each other, apply our religious beliefs, as the Rabbi had said, and may you have a good week and take a look at this bill and do something about it, communicate about it. Let's preserve our country. Let's preserve our creeds, our cultures, our religions. Thank you, Rabbi. And from A Time for Truth, thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Have a great week, and we will see you on Friday with another show.
Thank you.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet